Hey everybody, it's James here from the Sawyer Family Reviews channel, bringing you another DC Collectibles animated review. Today we're taking a look at one of my favorites, Batman the Animated Series, Clayface. Let's check him out. As always, we start things off with a package look at the figure first. Clayface is from Batman the Animated Series, so we've got the dark red highlighting on the packaging, Batman the Animated Series logo, Batman the Animated Series logo, Batman the Animated Series logo, Clayface, number 30. Sculpted by Irene Matar, Clayface name there, number 30. All the pieces laid out inside. It says 14 pieces. I don't know what that means. We've got the flip-flop of coloring on the back, so we've got the red Batman on the black background, which is a reverse of what's inside the packaging, which you can barely see. That's it. Let's get him out of there. Okay, we got Clayface out of the box here. First things first. We are on the final figure of this mini catalog poster dealio with number 30, Clayface, from the episode Mudslide, which is kind of surprising. You would think that they would do it off of the most memorable Clayface two-parter. It's a two-parter, Feet of Clay. But instead they went with Mudslide, which is the next appearance of Clayface. We've got Feet of Clay 1 and 2, and then Mudslide. I do like Mudslide a lot, but Feet of Clay seems like the ones that jumps out at you when you think of Clayface. I guess it's because, you know, there were some cool attachments you could put with him in this one, but there were cool attachments you could have done in Feet of Clay as well. There's a couple of things from Mudslide that they didn't include, which we'll get to when we talk about the accessories. I'm jumping the gun here. I'm excited because it's Clayface. So, turnarounds. On the stand here, we got the included stand. Clayface is in the style guide, so here are those turnarounds. They left out the middle one, but they kept those two for him from the style guide. Speaking of the stand, though, well, let's tell what all it comes with first. First, you got the long rod with a little indent here. The indent matches up with the base. You plug it in there. This slides back and forth. This is the kind they include with caped characters, or non-caped characters, because these poke out towards the back. This stand, though, I can't see how anybody would use it for Clayface. He's so big, and these aren't the most sturdy things in the world. I wouldn't recommend using this stand personally. I don't use their stands, but I definitely wouldn't use it on a very top-heavy character like Clayface here. Now, as far as accessories go, there's no actual like accessories for him to hold. Here's one of the things where, if it's from Mudslide, that they could have included the little isotope thing, like the jar isotope dealio. I don't understand, when you're doing Mudslide, that would have been a very quick and easy thing to include, because he steals this, almost looks like a thermos, and it looks like it would have fit perfectly in this hand. I'm curious why they didn't include that. Mostly he just comes with attachments, arms that can switch out. We've got a switch out axe arm that he uses in the episode, and he uses all three of these designs on his arm early in the episode when he fights Batman, when he's going to steal money from this place. So you've got this arm, which is an axe. We've got this one, which is a spiked ball and chain, and that one's really cool. And in the episode, all of them did keep the clay coloring. Like in Feet of Clay, when he would turn his hand into like this metal hand, it would turn like a metal appearance, whereas all these stayed looking like clay in this episode. That could be another reason why they chose Mudslide. It's not as much paint apps to have to worry about if they're all done in clay. So we've got the axe one, we've got the ball and chain, and there's an actual like chain piece in between. I believe it's plastic, but it's an actual linked chain in there. And then we've got just like a simple hook piece. And I think he uses, when he does this, he's like hooking the tree. He pulls down towards Batman, if I remember right. Something like that. And then he also kind of does this sort of hooking type thing towards the end of the episode where he's fighting Batman. And those all switch out on this arm here, on his right arm. You just pull off the existing right arm, and then you pop on one of the alternate attachments. That one doesn't want to go on all the way. Actually, it might have been on all the way. Maybe I'll just... There you go. So you can just pop them on there. Now, the other thing he includes is an alternate look for his face, an alternate head. So this just pops right off, like that. And it's kind of rubbery, which is nice. So it can move around on his body pretty easily. The peg inside feels harder, but the material itself for the rest of the head is kind of rubbery. So then you take this one, which is the more angry type of Clayface. This peg actually pushes up and down. So when you peg it on here, you're going to feel the peg kind of push down, and then you're going to push down more so it pops on there. And I think they did that so that you can kind of pull it up a little bit, so you can get a little bit more ease of movement, get it where you want it, and then push it back down. I think they're both really cool head sculpts. That's really cool. An angry Clayface. I'm going to pop this one off for now, then we go back to this one. Let's talk about his height and stuff before we start talking about... Actually, let me move on to this. I talked about, what accessories they did not include. So in the episode, speaking of this interchangeable head, he takes Batman and kind of traps him inside his body, and there's scenes where Batman you can see him pushing out from the clay. It'd been neat to have sort of an overlay where, like, Batman's trying to escape. There's also a spot where he thinks he's got Batman trapped, and Batman shoots his grapple through his head and, like, blows a hole through the top of his head. That would have been another cool alternate head, to have the grapple, like, shooting out of the head, and it kind of opened up. And it's kind of a pipe dream. It's kind of a pretty, scene-specific inclusion, whereas all this other stuff, it's just Clayface. It doesn't have to be like, it's this specific shot in this one scene. It's just Clayface arms and Clayface expressions and stuff like that. Okay, let's talk about his height and show some size comparisons before we move on to articulation here. So Clayface, at the top of his head, stands a little over 6.5. So he's not incredibly tall, but he is wide. He's a heavy, wide figure. Let's bring in Batman to show what they look like together. So that's the two of them together. As you can see, Batman is almost at the top of his ears. He's not that much shorter than Clayface, but Clayface's width is where it's at. Like, it's a big, bulky, chunky character. Could he have been a little bit taller? Yeah, but there's different scenes of Clayface. It feels like Clayface gets larger and smaller in scenes. There's even one scene where he's coming up on him in Feet of Clay, and he seems like he grows larger as he stands next to him. So I'm not that upset about him maybe feeling a little on the smaller side, because Clayface goes back and forth throughout the episode. Especially in Feet of Clay. Articulation. So articulation isn't super great on him, but he is a big, chonky character. So I wouldn't want a ton of articulation down here and make him fall down, because if you did it just right, you can kind of get him to stand up on his own without the support of a stand. If I can see? So even though he's got those tiny little legs, the fact that he doesn't have a ton of joints down here is kind of good, because you don't want him flopping all over the place. So we've got rotation at the ankle. I don't think these hinge back and forth. They don't feel like they do. I think they just rotate. There's no knee joint or anything like that, because he does have these small legs. Then he's got rotation at the hip, and it only kicks forward to there, and only kicks back quite a bit, actually. But it only kicks forward a little bit. And then we've got hinged hips that will swing out to there. Go back to there. Then we've got a mid-torso crunch right here, or an ab crunch, that can go down to there, back to there. It's pretty well hidden, too. Like, you can get it to line up just perfectly. You can still sort of see those two lines there, but the sculpting matches up with what's there. It's not like just a flat piece. It's actually sculpted. And then we've got rotation at the torso. We've got rotation at the shoulders that can then hinge out to about there. We've got double rotation at the elbow. So we've got rotation where it meets the bicep, and then rotation again where this ball joint meets the arm here. And then we've got a ratcheting elbow. There's no wrist articulation here. And then we've got a head that swivels around. And like I said before, you do have that little bit where you could pull up on the peg a little bit and get more movement to where you want it to be, and then push it back down. I thought that was a pretty interesting choice there on that pull in and out peg. All right, let's get him back on this stand here. I'm going to bring in, I forgot to do this on Firefly, but here's a comparison of our very first animated Clayface figure. And I'm kind of surprised by the size here, that the size is not that much bigger. Like, this was a big figure to begin with. I used to love this Clayface. When I was younger, this Clayface was awesome. And as you can see back then, they went with the colored weapons, which was like Feet of Clay, where he would change his shape, but he would also change the coloring of whatever he was mimicking. Whereas on this one, it's all clay. But it is cool that we sort of have the old ball and chain thing going again. We don't have the claw hands anymore, but we do have that. Let's put that off to the side. I think I've covered just about everything on him. I love the Clayface character. I love Matt Hagen as a character. I love that he's so self-absorbed that in both episodes, he's got somebody that's trying to help him. It's his stand-in in Feet of Clay 1 and 2, where he just like abuses the stand-in guy. And then he's got Stella trying to help him in Mudslide, and he's sort of kind to her, but at the same time, he's also like mean to her. It's because he's so self-absorbed. Clayface is, from being this self-absorbed actor guy that gets scarred, and then, he's got to fix his face, he's got to do these things. And then he goes so far as to doesn't care that he's going to frame Bruce Wayne. It's all about him and what he needs. Trying to get this camera to focus back on. It keeps wanting to change that coloring. There we go. And then he just becomes this monster, and he's still self-absorbed where it's like, I've got to fix me. I got to do this. But then he goes after Daggett. I just love the Clayface character. I love the look of the character. I love what they did with him on Batman Animated Series. He's one of my favorite villains for sure on the show. Feet of Clay Part 2 is one of the best looking episodes of animation of any cartoon of all time. I love Clayface. So this figure is for sure a must-have in my eyes. He originally retailed at like 40 or 50 bucks, and he's up there now, man. He's over 100 bucks easily when you can find him. I think it gets up to like 200 bucks, I want to say. But he is awesome. Love this figure. Love the design. This one's great. This one is absolutely great. So that wraps it up for all of these. I can't even remember what number 31 is. So I'm going to have to dig through, and I can't wait to open it up and see what the next catalog is going to be. Very excited about that. If you enjoy the videos, like, subscribe, notify. Leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think about Clayface. See you guys next time.